So I've seen all of season 2. It is fantastic.
That's
I
good
think
too.
fans are going to love it. I'm always curious what you're allowed to say. So I hate asking the generic thing, but what are you allowed to say about season 2?
Yeah, no worries. I mean, I think we could talk about, the depending on when the interview might air, is this notion of the bigger themes of the show this season, which I think it really season 2 talks about, broadly speaking, about identity. Everyone's different struggle with identity, but specifically with issues, topical issues like cancel culture, issues of race. COVID plays an enormous part in the season, and politics play a considerable amount of part. The 2020 election. So all of those things definitely come into play. And we pick up about 6 months where we left off at the end of season 1, where Alex is essentially blown up the network. And we have a reconfiguring of the power positions in season 2 at UBA. We have a new head of a new news division in Stella Bach. And Cory has become the head of the network, essentially. So those are like sort of the broad strokes. Yeah, that's essentially about as much as I can say.
By the way, that was very good. It's almost like you've done it before.
No,
Maybe.
it's my first interview.
Do you view Corey as a good person, a bad person, or does it depend on the day of the week?
That's a phenomenal question, and that you're asking that question tells me how good the writing is, and not only just obviously how the way Billy has interpreted that role, which is phenomenal, but it starts with what's on the page, as we all know. And when you have writers like Carrie Aaron, who I had the privilege to work with on Bates Motel, you're guaranteed a role that people are going to love and hate at different times. She did that with Norma Bates. She did it certainly with my character, with Norman Bates, on Bates Motel. And she does it with just about every role on the show, except maybe mine. Yanko, there's a handful of us that are spared a lot of that sort of that. I mean, not the darkness, but that sort of the I don't know, the ill will from the public, maybe.
Yeah. So without getting into exact specifics, Yanko is dealing with the cancel culture
Yes.
this season, and he has an interesting, without getting specific, he has an interesting reaction to certain things that are asked of him.
Yes.
Do you actually agree with the way Yanko reacts, or do you know what I mean?
I fully know what you mean, and I am fully on Yanko's camp on this particular issue. I think we can say some stuff on the issue. He says something on air flippantly that is construed by one person on Twitter as racially insensitive, and that person subsequently launches a campaign to essentially destroy him. And and then the interesting thing is the head of the news division, the new head, sides with the campaign over Yanko. And I think she has sort of preconceived ideas of Yanko because he made some flippant remark about politics that she pegged him as a certain way. And she's put two and two together in her mind and figured this guy is a racially insensitive guy. And I'm gonna have him do exactly what the public wants him to do. I won't have his back until he does everything that I ask of him. So he goes on this sort of the beginning of an apology tour. And I love what the writers basically said about this notion of cancel culture, which is, once you go down that path, when is it enough? When is an apology enough? When the goalposts keep moving. And it is a comment on our times. It is a comment on the insidious nature of cancel culture and the drawbacks from that, where it's not just you're criticizing someone, you're actually trying to destroy them.
Yeah, the other thing is that, and the way I look at it, when you're on a morning show and you are live every day and asking to talk, at some point you're gonna mess up with what you say. Like you're gonna say something that is not right, and you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean, and it's a beautiful point. You're absolutely right. When you're so exposed, when it's live, you're going to say something off the cuff that's going to offend somebody. Yeah, it's bound to happen. And we've gotten to a point now where comedians are very open, so many of them, about the fact that they've had to, monitor themselves when they do a set to the point where they've watered down every single joke for fear of being canceled. I mean, David Spade, I think I just read an article was talking about that very same issue, and it is. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld's spoken about it. So many of them have spoken about it that it's a real shame. It's a comment on our times that we're not allowed to offend. God forbid we offend at any turn, you know. So when we don't offend, we also don't risk making people laugh or think differently.
I think certain comedians that are at a certain level can get away with whatever the hell they're going to say
There's a few.
because they're protected by just their audience, if you will.
It's a very yes.
But you have to reach a certain level to get to where
Yes.
you're protected.
Yeah, Don Rickles would get away with anything, you know, back in the day. And there's certain comedians nowadays. You're
Or
right.
this guy.
There you go.
You
Hey,
know?
that is my counterpart. I feel like Yanko gets no respect either. Absolutely. You know, this is you're absolutely right. There are people who have a built-in audience that whether they have their own podcast, you know, their own that they're not beholden to you know, a corporation having to censor them in any way. They're beholden to their subscribers, you know, and that's enough, you know, and thank God for that. Because you know, they're not having to do absurd things, you know, to defend themselves where they don't need to defend themselves. And obviously, there's times when people do need to defend themselves, and there is a place for it. But putting all of that power in the hands of someone who's anonymously typing on a keyboard is a dangerous thing.
My last question for you. I love learning about the behind the scenes of the making of series, movies, whatever. What do you think might surprise people to learn about the making of the morning show?
Well, I mean, I think, well, one thing is that we shot this entire season in Los Angeles. You know, you know, I don't know if that's something I should say because then people are going to start looking for it. But that is a credit to our incredible, you know, special effects department and production design department. Unbelievable what they accomplished, you know, on those sets, on you know, outside, making LA look like New York. Times Square is nothing short of extraordinary. I was blown away when I saw it. So that's extraordinary. And I think the groundbreaking thing I think at the time is that we didn't know how we were going to come back and when we were going to come back because the pandemic was still pretty much in full swing when we started resuming shooting. And it's thanks to Apple and the protocols and all the research they did through these epidemiologists that they hired for the show that we were able to shoot without any real interruption the entire second season when we went back. And that was extraordinary too.
On that note, I got to stop. I'm just going to say congrats on a great season.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much for talking with me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much.